This video is going to showcase how you can create your very first multiplayer game without having any experience with game development or programming. By the end of this video, you will have a game that you're able to connect to with your friends and play with them across the world. If you have no desire in actually creating a video game, this video will serve as a good example on how a multiplayer project is set up and packaged to be uploaded onto Steam or other game services. We're going to be using a game engine to create and set up this multiplayer project. This will allow us to both create the multiplayer project and maintain as much control as possible. This is a better alternative than, say, using Fortnite or Roblox to make a project, because you can put whatever content you want into your game and you can play with your friends without them needing to have either Fortnite or Roblox installed. They just need Windows or Linux or Mac. A quick disclaimer, making a multiplayer game is difficult and it takes a lot of experience and knowledge. This video will showcase the full process of making that game, but it's your job to make it fun and enjoyable, adding mechanics and animation and other good stuff. We're going to be using Unreal Engine, but many of the steps I'm going to be showing in this video is very similar to how you would do it in Unity or Godot, which are two other game engines. Creating a multiplayer game completely from scratch without using a game engine will take a good developer weeks or months to do. The steps on creating this project will include the following. We're going to be downloading Unreal Engine, create and set up your project, create a main menu, create a level, set up and test multiplayer, package your project, open ports to allow outside connections, send your project to your friends, and then you can play. So let's get started. So I've navigated to unrealengine.com, and in the top right corner you can press download, and this will download the executable that you need to install Unreal Engine and the Epic Games launcher. I recommend following this information over here. Have to download the launcher, install the Epic Games launcher, and then install Unreal Engine. You can click here to watch the video for that. In the Epic Games launcher, you want to head on over to Unreal Engine, Library, and then press this over here to add the engine version. I recommend picking the latest one, so that will be, in this case of this recording, 5.8.1. And then you just press install. Once that's been done, you want to press launch to launch the engine. And this can take some time, especially the first time you're launching it. Once it's been launched, you want to head on over to new project. And then in here, you can pick from any of these different templates. In my case, I'm going to be using the first person template. I'm going to click that. And then over here, we want to select Blueprint. You can pick C++ if you want to as well. And then you want to go ahead and select Desktop, Maximum Quality Preset. And then here, you can pick between the different types you want to use. I'm just going to pick all to get all of them. And then you want to just find a folder you want to add it to. And then name it to whatever. I'm going to name this to my multiplayer project. And then press create. And this will also take some time to load through. And now we're inside of Unreal Engine. To move around, you can hold down the right mouse button to look around, and then use W, A, S, and D to move around while holding down the right mouse button. To quickly test your game, you can press the play button over here, and that will spawn you into the world. So you can look around and run around using W, A, S, and D, and you can also jump. To quickly test the multiplayer capabilities, what you can do is you can press escape to go back out, then press these three dots, change the number of players to 2, and then under net mode, you want to select play as listen server. If you now press play again, you will spawn in and you can see another player. I can actually navigate to this window, and as you can see, I can now move around with this character, and it moves in the world for both players. So what this means is that Unreal Engine has already set up the basics for us to be able to move around and see other characters in the world moving around. So now what we need to do is to set up a system that allows us to host and connect to different players. To set up the system that allows us to both host and connect, we need to make a main menu so we can press a button to host and connect to a specific player. To do this, we simply want to go down to the content drawer, which is the place where we keep all of our files, and we can just right-click in here, add a new folder, and then type in here, user interface. Then we can right-click in here, go to user interface, and then select widget blueprint. And then we can pick the user widget over here. Then we can name this, and I'm going to call this main menu. And then I can double click on it to open it up. And this is a user interface that allows us to create our user interface in the game. So what I want to do first of all is to add a panel I'm going to add a canvas panel. So this is the space of the UI that we have so far. I'm then going to add an image into the canvas panel, and I'm going to make sure this is stretched across the entire plane. So we're going to click here, click this, and then just zero out this to make them to 0. So now we have a completely white background, and I can change this to be something else. I can use a color or a texture or whatever I want to do, but I'm going to just change this to be tinted to a gray color like this. That's the basics of the user interface. Now I want to add a button. I'm just going to drag and drop this button into here, and we're going to add another one and another one. So in the bottom one, we want to add something called text. I can just drag and drop the text onto the button. Then I can resize this button, and we're going to click on the text. And then over here in the details panel, where we can change all the settings, I want to type in quit. Then I'm going to click this one. And in this one, I'm going to drag in text again. And I'm going to resize it. Then in the text, I'm going to type in post. Then finally, for the top one, I'm going to drag in text again, make it a bit bigger, and I'm going to click on it and type in join. We have join, host, and quit. Now, if you want this to look a bit more prettier, what you can do is you can go in here again, and there is something called in the panel section called vertical box. I can just drag and drop this into here. Let's put it underneath the image. Like that. Let's see. There you go. And then I can just take all the buttons and drag and drop them into this vertical box. And I need to just reassign the text to the buttons. And as you can see, we now actually have a more organized menu. And I can move this around as well if I want to. I can put this somewhere else. If you want to make the buttons have a bit more space between them, you can just select all the buttons by holding down Control and clicking on them, and then changing the padding over here. I'm just going to type in 10, and that will space them a bit like this. Now what we can do is we can go and compile and save this, and that is going to make our basic UI. And then what we want to do is to add it to the screen when we actually join the game. And to do that, we simply just want to make a new level that is going to be the main menu level. So we're going to go to File, New Level, and then just select Empty Level, press Create, then go to File, Save Current Level, and then in here we can put this wherever we want to. I'm just going to put this into the user interface and call this Main Menu Level, and save that. Then over here, we want to go to Level Blueprints by pressing this button and then open Level Blueprints. And in here, we want to start using this node over here. So we're going to be doing some programming now, but we're going to do it using nodes. So we can drag from this and release, and then we're going to type in create widget. And this basically means create the user interface. And under class, we're going to find the one we created. So we're just going to type in main and then find main menu. And then here from the return value, we want to drag from here and then do add to viewport. What we then want to do is to right click and then type in get player controller. And this controls if we can see the mouse cursor or not. So we're just going to simply get this, drag from here, and then type in mouse cursor, and then scroll all the way down till we see set show mouse cursor, and then tick this and then put it in after there. So what's going to happen now is that when the game starts or when the level opens up, we're going to create this user interface, add it to the viewport so we can see it, and then make sure that the mouse cursor is visible at all times. And that's all we need for now. And then back in here, if I now press the play button, we're going to be able to see our user interface. Now I actually get both of these windows showing up at the same time. I'm going to close this, and over here, I'm going to just set this back to be 1, and net mode back to play standalone. If I press play again, you can see we now have this user interface. If I hover over these buttons, we can actually see that they are lighting up. But when I press them, nothing is going to happen because we haven't added any code to this yet. So I'm going to press stop, then go back in here again and open up the main menu widget. Then let's start with the quit button because I think that's the easiest one. So we're just going to simply click on this, scroll all the way down, and then there's an event we can select over here called onClicked. I'm going to click this button, and that will make an event for this button. But it says currently button 2. So to fix that, we can actually name these so it's easier to know what we were working with. So I'm just going to simply click on it, go up over here, and call this one button_quit. And then this one is going to be called host. And then this one over here is going to be called join. Then let's go back to the graph. And you can now see that we have this button called button quit. And then from here, what we can do is we can just drag in here and then type in quit game, click here, and then you can select the method that you want to use. I'm just going to leave it as this, compile, save, and we can minimize this window. If I now press play, you can see I can press the quit button and that will quit the game. So now let's focus on setting up the joining and hosting. Simply go back to the designer, and then in here I want to select the host, scroll down, and then press the onClicked event just like before. And then go back to the designer again, and then select join, scroll down, and then press onClicked. So now we have the quit, the host, and the join. I'm going to reorder these so that it's easier to see the same order as it's actually in the designer with join, host, and quit. You don't have to do this, it's just for the sake of being organized. And then for hosting, we just simply want to open a level that we want to host the game on. And what you can do is you can just drag from this and release and then type in open level. And we're going to do open level by name. And we're going to leave this blank for now at none. But you want to expand this, and under options, you want to click here and type in listen. That's going to create a listen server when you host. And then you can duplicate this or just, again, drag from here, release, and then do open level by name. And this time around, you do not want the option of listen, you just want to leave this blank. But here in the level name is where we want to type in our IP address that you want to connect to. You can do this in a bunch of different ways. You can type it in here permanently, which means that whenever someone presses this button, they will always join that particular IP address. But if your IP address ever changes, that's not a good idea. So we're going to add another function and another element to our interface. So just underneath of here, I'm going to find something called a text box. So this one right here, and we can just drag and drop this just beneath the first join button. And that's going to add this over here. And just to make it look good with the rest, I'm going to change the padding to be 10, just like the other ones. So then in here, what we want to do is to leave most of this blank. We just want to make sure that we can change the text over here. So editable text box, and I'm going to call this IP address. Then in the graph, what I then want to do is to drag the editable text box IP address that I just made into here, press get, and then drag from here and release, and then type in get text. And you want to then find the one called get text box. What you then want to do is to drag from here and release, and then type to string, and then drag this into here. So we need to do 2 different casts to convert this into the right type for the level name. And then we're going to put this over here, make it pretty. So basically what we can do now is to use this text box and write text into it. And when we press this button, we're getting the text and putting it into the level name so we can actually join that particular IP address and server. So I'm going to compile this and save. So now let's set up the hosting and which level it's going to be hosting. So to do that, we're going to minimize, go to the content drawer, and in here you can just simply right click and you can make a level from here. You can also go to File, New Level, and make one here, or you can just use an existing one that exists in the world. So I'm going to basically just go to first person, and we have this level right here. before I click on it and join it, I can actually press F2 on the keyboard, copy the name. So F2, then Control-C to copy the name. And then if I then go into it, you can see this is the level that we have. So if I go back to the content drawer, go to user interface, main menu, I can now paste this into here under the level name. I can then press compile and save. And then if I just now go back again to my main menu level, when I press play, this is going to start up. I can press quit to quit. I can press join to join, and this will automatically join this level if it doesn't find anything it can actually join. But we're going to get back to that later on. If I press play again, you then have host, and this will then join this level. So we have the basic setup now, and let's test out the multiplayer functionality of this. So I'm going to go here, go to net mode, and then play as client, and then change the number of players to 2. Press play. And as you can see right now, we have this one over here that I can host. And then this over here has not joined yet. And we need to join an IP address. And to find your own IP address locally for your PC, you can simply go down to the network and internet settings, press Ethernet, and then you can see it over here. So you can just simply copy that. So let's do 192.168.1.250 and then press join. And when I do that, you can see we actually now joined that particular server. If I do this all again, also we're going to fix these issues that we get here in just a moment. If I do this again, I do host, and then I do join over here, but I'm going to just enter whatever in here. You will see that we will not join the server with the other player. So the connection actually works. Something that's worth noting as well is that the IP address that we have in here works for both the public IP addresses and the local ones. So to fix the issue we had before with the errors we got, so I'm going to just press play and then press this to get this back again. To fix these issues, we simply have to do a change in the code in the level blueprint. So since we're opening up as clients, the server doesn't handle it really well. So what we can do is we can fix this in a few different ways, but the best way I find is to just right click and do custom event, and then you want to press add custom event. And I'm going to call this setup UI. And then from this, we want to simply go under access specifier, replicates, and then change this to be run on owning client. And we're going to just simply drag and drop this into here, and then hold down Alt and click here to sever this connection. So this is going to be the new setup for this. And then from the begin play, drag and release, and then type in setup UI. So we're simply going to run this event from here when the game starts. And also to be good and safe, we can drag from here, from the return value of the player controller, and type in is valid, and then use this one, and then plug this in over here, and then is valid over here. So in case you get issues, you can use this to prevent those from happening. And this should theoretically fix our issues and warnings. So compile, save, and let's try again. Play, and then quit. You can see no warnings. What we now want to do is to fix the default level, and that's also going to fix the issue where we press the join button and it joins the actual playable level. So simply go to edit and then go down to project settings and then click the maps and modes. And here, what we want to do is to set up the editor startup map to be main menu. And then also do the same for the game default map. So this means that whenever a game starts up, like when we run our executable to start our game, this level will start. And this means that when we start the editor, the main menu level is going to be starting. So by just changing this and then pressing play and then pressing join, you will see that it doesn't change to that level as it did before. And again, if I press host here, I can join this level. And I can then go back here and then type in my IP address again. And then press join. And we can join the same level. So that's basically the basic setup for setting up this project. And say if you want to do this in another level, we can just press escape, go to file, new level, open world. This is a pretty big level here. I'm going to go to file and save this. And I'm going to save this in the first person. And let's call this R new world. And I'm just going to copy this name immediately. So just Control C to copy that and then save this in here. And it's going to take a moment to save. And once it's been saved, I can just go back to content drawer, go to user interface, main menu, go to the graph, and then I can replace the level name from the host with this level, and then press compile, save, and then if I press the, go back here again and go to the main menu level, press play, press host, we now spawn in this level instead. And then here I can just click and do 192.168.1.250, join, and we now join this level. Pretty cool stuff. If you want to change the spawning locations of players, we can do that quite easily. So if you are in your level, you can just simply set up the spawning points by going up to this menu over here, which is the quick add menu. And then in here, what you want to do is to type in start. And you can drag in a player start. Now it will pick between these at random. So if you have multiple ones, it will just pick one location to spawn a player. And you have to do some coding to set up the player spawning. And then you can go crazy. So simply now you can start adding stuff like different shapes and cubes. And then you can, of course, use the W, E, and R to rotate stuff, scale stuff, and then W to move stuff around. That's pretty cool. And just when I add this in here and press play, you can see that we have this box and I can jump onto it if I could jump that high. And everything just seems to work as we want it to. So now it's time to do the final step of compiling this into a project that we can actually run without having to open up the engine. Before we continue with the final steps of packaging the project, I just want to quickly mention that I have a website called 𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗥.com, and I've been posting videos every single day this year teaching people how to use Unreal Engine and doing game development. So if you want to learn more about that, you can head on over to the website 𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗥.com, then go to resources, and then go down to learning. And then in here, I have a bunch of tutorials you can read through, but you can click over here on this one. And that is a link to the YouTube playlist and TikTok profile if you want to check out those videos. It's everything from beginner content to advanced stuff with shaders and C++ programming. People who've been using Unreal Engine for over 10 years now have said that they have found pretty interesting things they never knew before. I then also have a bunch of products. Most of them are things you can buy, but I have things like color blindness that allows you to simply visualize how people with color blindness view the world, or then view the game world. This is completely free, and then I have other free things you can check out as well. So if you find any of this interesting, or if you found the process of making this multiplayer project enjoyable or interesting, I highly recommend checking out the website 𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗥.com. All right, let's package our project. Simply what you want to do is to go to platforms, and then go down to package projects. And here you can select your operating system. So I'm going to go with Windows, and then you can select the architecture of the processor. So I'm going to go with product defaults, but if you have an ARM PC, you can go with either of these. And then over here under build configuration, you can pick between debug game, development, and shipping. Now shipping is the one I typically use for a final product. You cannot use a console in this type of shipped build, and you can't do any debugging. But if you want to do that, you want to pick development. But shipping is much smaller in size, and it's easier to send to friends, and is used most of the time when you don't do any of the, again, debugging stuff. Now you can simply just go here to package project and click this, but there is a thing. If you don't add your levels that you want to include in your build, they might not appear in the actual final game. So to ensure that we actually package and include this level, we want to go to edit and then go to project settings. And since we went under maps and modes, you can see that we have already included the main menu as the game default map. So this is going to be included in the package project, but it doesn't mean that other types of levels will be included. So simply go into the packaging section, and then you can scroll down, and there should be a way for us to add more levels. Let's just see if we can find it over here. If you cannot find it, simply just click all settings and type in map, and then scroll up here. We should be able to find it somewhere. Here it is, project packaging, list of maps to include in a packaged build. Click this, click these 3 dots, and then you want to navigate. So this will be kind of how it looks for you. Go to content, then go to the folder where you save your level. I think it's first person. And then I have the 𝗟𝗛𝗡𝗪, which is the UMap, which we made. And you can actually see it's called 𝗟𝗛𝗪 over here. So that's the one I want to add. I can then close this, go back to platforms, package project, and then package project. Once we do that, we're going to get put into our projects folder again. And I typically just right click in here, go to new, add a new folder, call this game, and then double click on it, and then choose folder. And we just simply have to wait now and let this package. This could take anything from just a few minutes all the way up to multiple hours, depending on the complexity of your project and how big it is. Now, I have a pretty good PC, so this is going to run by pretty quickly, but the first packaging often takes quite a long time, and then the subsequent ones are actually quite quickly done. So this is done for me right now, and I can then just simply go to File, and then go and head on over to Open Current Project Directory, which will open up the directory where we have the folder game, which I just made, and Windows. And simply, these are all the files that you would use to upload to itch.io or to Steam or Epic Games. This is your final game. So all we have to do now is to go to My Multiplayer Project, double click on it, and we get this. I can now press quit to quit out of it. I can open it up again and press host, and pressing host will basically put me into this level. And here you can see the cube that we added from way before. Bad thing is I can't actually quit because we did not add a menu to quit from this. So if I press escape, nothing will happen. So you'll have to set up that yourself, but press Alt F4 to just simply close down the project. Now I can open this up on the screen over here, and then simply press Alt and Enter. And when I do that, I can minimize this, and hopefully I'm able to run multiple windows here. Let's see. It seems like it. Let's minimize this one as well. And then let's do some testing. I can do host on this one. Let's go on over to this one, and we do 192.168.1.250, and then press join. And there we go. Both players are joined, and we can jump around and we can do things together. Very nice. Alt F4 to close that down. Now, here's the thing. You will be able to connect to your friends on the same network. So if you have a sister or a brother, you will be able to play this on your own hardware at home on your Wi-Fi. But your friends will not be able to join from another network. So if they're sitting at home, they will not be able to join your server. So to fix that, you need to do one more thing, which is to open ports. And if you've ever had a Minecraft server and hosted that yourself, you probably know how to open ports, but I'm going to show you the full step of doing that. To open up your router, you typically type in 192.168.1.1. Otherwise, you can just search on Google how to open up your router. But just simply open up a web browser and type this in here. Then what you want to do is head on over to your WAN section, go to port forwarding, and then in here what you want to do is to simply add a profile. Go to service name, and I'm going to call this Unreal Engine. And then you typically only have to open up the UDP ports, but I pick both of them because why not? And then type in under external ports 7777. So 4 sevens. And then you have to type in your internal IP address, and that is the one you have on your own PC. In my case, that's 192.168.1.250. It's the same as I showed before when I went in here and looked at my network settings. That's all we have to do, and then press OK. and then we have added our port in here, and that's all we have to do. So now, theoretically, people should be able to connect to our server. So now that you've opened up ports on your PC, what you have to do is to send your public IP address to your friends so they can actually join your server. So to do that, you need to actually find out what your public IP address actually is. It's not the 192.168.1.250 that I had before, it's a different one. It's a public one. And you can either find it through going on to Google and typing in what's my IP address, or you can just simply hold down the Windows key and R on the keyboard, type cmd, and then in here type curl space ifconfig.me, and this will list your public IP address in here. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not showing my public IP address, it is because if people get hold of your public IP address, they can access things on your system, things you're hosting locally with exposed ports. So you want to be careful with sharing your public IP address to random people. Sharing it with your friends should be all fine. And also, if you don't want to share your public IP address, I have a plugin called IP Protect that you can use that basically gives you the public IP address, it gives you the local IPv4 address and IPv6 addresses, and you can actually encrypt your IP address, and instead of sending the actual full IP address, like for instance this one over here, you can just encrypt it to something like this and send that to your friends instead. And this includes the full installation and how you can use that. So as a final step, let's join our server using a public IP address. I'm going to press host over here, and here we're hosted, and we're going to go over to the other one, and I'm going to paste in my IP address and then press join, and here we go. You can see both players are able to join, and we can see each other. I can jump, and that is reflected over there. And this is how you can set up and make your very first online multiplayer game that you can play with your friends from across the world. I hope this video was helpful and it taught you the basics of Unreal Engine and how you can set this up yourself. It's a lot of information, it's quite daunting, and I hope I made it simple enough so that you can actually make this yourself and go through it. And again, if you have any questions, if I was unclear on something, just feel free to ask anything in the comment section and I'll be doing my best to help you out. And again, as I mentioned just briefly before, I have new tutorials coming out every single day as short videos, and I'm going to be posting more long-form videos as well, showcasing and explaining how you can use Unreal Engine and how you can best make your own games. And let me know if you ended up setting up your own multiplayer project. And feel free to join the Discord as well that I have on my website and showcase images of your project. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and comment. It means a lot. Have a great day, and bye.